Great, this is recycled paper making using the Arnold Drummers paper making kit. Basically what we're doing is we're taking both construction paper, pieces of construction paper, and printing paper that has been prior used, and we're going to make a sheet of basically homemade paper to do some art on. So again, recycled, I'd call it recycled paper making, again with the Arnold Drummers paper making kit. So let me go over the parts of the paper kit, and then I'll do the process. So first thing you're going to need is some printer paper, and I should have had this probably a little bit separated here, but you'll need some craft paper for some color within the piece of paper you're going to make, and then you'll need some prior printed white 8.5 by 11 paper, that came from your school printer or whatever that wasn't any good to use. You could use newspaper. You can pretty much use any type of paper you want. Okay, but we're going to use printer paper and then craft paper. You need some type of a cup in order to transfer some water. In this case, we just have a old ceramic pot that was made, and we're going to transfer water with that. It's kind of neat to use, so we'll use that. We'll need a blender. The blender doesn't have to be anything special, just a blender with some standard settings, and you're set to go. Some type of a tub. In this case, have a plastic storage tub. I don't know if it's what, 1.5 by 2 feet long, with about, I don't know, an inch and a quarter of water at the bottom of it. Okay. You'll need a screen from the Arnold Drummers kit. So this is a screen, and this is a professional paper mill, or paper producing mill. Okay, so again, this screen, you'll need from the kit a piece of, looks like just screen from like your patio door type screen. Okay. I need a sponge, and the kit supplies a sponge. Any type of sponge will pretty much work. In this case, we have like a 2 by 4 inch or 5 inch little sponge, and you can buy these about anywhere. So you just need one of those. In the kit, Arnold Drummer supplies a plastic little board. It looks like it's from like decking from like an outdoor deck. It's a composite material piece of plastic, so you'll need that. You'll need 2 pieces of what Arnold calls couch paper, and basically it's a thick piece of paper that'll soak up water. So you need 2 pieces of that. They have to be dry. Okay, they can be prior used, but they have to be dry. All right, then we need a tray. So this is just a shallow, I don't know, serving tray. So you need one of those. From the kit, there is a, what are they, like a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch plastic, I don't know, grid piece that is in the kit. You need that. And then you'll have to have the wood form that's supplied in the kit with the Velcro attached to it. So there's 2 pieces of Velcro attached to it. Right, this kit, or this board frame, is designed to be in water, so that's why we're using this one. My kit came with one that's, this one's probably about 5 by 7 or so is the size of the form. I'm sure if you wanted to, you could probably make a bigger form yourself at a wood shop, or however means you have in making one. I'm sure this Arnold Drummers makes bigger ones you can probably purchase, but in the kit we have this size. We're going to use this. Okay, then we have in this case I just took a towel with a board and put the towel over top of the board for an ironing block. Okay, yes, there are way better ironing blocks than this. They're actually designed for it, but this will work for the process we need. And then, not the greatest, safest probably iron in the face of the earth, but that's what I have here in the art room. So we have a simple iron that gets hot. that'll do some ironing for us. The paper can be set out to air dry. It just takes a pretty long time. In this case, we're pressing the water and heating the water out of the paper much faster, so our paper's done sooner. Okay? Alright, so that should be about all the supplies you need. So at this point, we'll actually go through the process. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we'll take the lid here off of the blender. We'll make sure the blender is plugged in. We'll make sure the blender is plugged in. We'll just turn on to make sure it works. And it looks like it's going to work, so we are set. Okay. Very first step I want to do is I want to take a full sheet of whatever 8.5 by 11 sheet of printing paper you have. In this case, there's a little bit of writing on this one. Okay, and I'm just going to take this, I'm going to tear it up into some pieces. And you know, if you tear them up, they don't have to be teeny tiny pieces, but if we tear it up 7, 8, 10 times or so, and you get pieces, I don't know if they're 1 inch by inch or so, it's perfect. And you go ahead and you throw this into the blender. And if you take this colored paper, craft paper, darker colors, you need less of the colored craft paper as opposed to lighter colors like this pink. So this blue, we could use a small strip of it. This pink, you probably want to use like 3/4 of a sheet of paper to get any type of color at all. Okay, so understanding of the paper you're using and how much color you're going to add according to the darkness of the paper. All right, so we'll just use this blue. And I'm going to rip a strip off of here. And I don't know if I go about that much blue, it'd be about fine. And again, I'm going to tear this up to about the same size as I did the printing paper. And I might decide actually I'm going to use a little bit more than that, because I want, it's when you end up ironing, it takes the water out, which in turn looks actually lighter by the time you're done ironing and heating the water out. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit more there. Alright, now on the blender there should be an indicator of how many cups you're putting in the blender. In this case I'm going to put 2 cups of water. So I'm going to take the water straight out of my plastic container here, and I'm going to add to the blender about 2 cups of water. If you're a little over, that's okay. In this case I'm slightly over, but we're good. Put the lid on, and I'm going to let this blend up on what's it called? Smoothie, or about the middle setting on the blender. Let it blend for about 30 seconds. Alright. Okay, once blended, I'm just going to hit this with a pulse a little bit, just in case there's some pieces in there that need to be broke up. Okay, and at that point we should be blended up pretty good. Alright, now I'm going to go to my form. So my Armor form here, I'm going to fold back the 2 pieces of Velcro. I'm going to put the paper screen, so the paper screen on first. This is the professional paper screen. So put that on the form first. And then I'm going to put this 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch plastic grid on top of that. And again, this is on the side where the Velcro's at. Now I want to line those up pretty equal, and then I want to make sure that this Velcro is tight across them. Okay, if it's not tight, it won't seal the bottom, and the paper will tend to leak right out of there. Okay, so again, the screen first, then this grid. Velcro it nice and tight. Okay, I'm going to take this form, I'm going to put it into the water sideways, and then lay it down in. It might float just a little bit, and that's okay, just as long as there's about 1 inch of water or so inside the form. Okay, I'm going to take the stand, open the lid, and I'm going to pour the solution into the form. And make sure you get all the solution in there. There might be some little bit of material left in here, but that's okay. For the most part, I get it in there. All right. Now, next step is I'm going to take and I'm going to agitate the water and paper pieces up a little bit here. So I'm just going to agitate it here. So try to kind of get the paper, the blended up paper kind of even. Okay, and once I have that done, I'm going to lift the form straight up out of the water and I'm going to let it drain. Now you want to try to keep the form level if you can so that the particles of paper kind of level off evenly. And I'm just going to let this go until the majority of the water is done draining out of the bottom. Okay, then I'm going to go over to my serving tray. And I'm going to hold this over top of the serving tray. And I'm going to take the Velcro off. And I'm going to lift this, flipping the Velcro backwards. I'm going to lay this down on the, and I'm going to lift that off nice and even. Okay, now this piece here then needs to go to the sink and be rinsed off. Okay, for now I'm just going to lay this here off to the side on the corner of the tub. Okay, so now I have my plastic form, my screen, my paper mill screen, and then my paper is kind of evenly set right on top. Okay, I'm going to take the screen from like a patio door, so this screen piece, I'm going to lay it right over top of those paper particles that are on there. Then I'm going to take the sponge, I'm going to place the sponge on top, and I'm slowly going to start soaking up the water. Okay, once the sponge soaks up the water, it's going to get a little bit more pliable. Now notice as I'm pushing, I'm just pushing down with my full hand nice and even on the sponge. Okay, once I get the sponge saturated with water, I'm going to take and squeeze it back into the tub. You got to squeeze it pretty good to get most of the water out of it. And then I was going across it this way. Now I'm going to go straight up and down across this. And I'm going to pat it twice. Don't sit here and push like this because that's not evenly pushing the sponge down. The sponge you want to push down, and when you let up it pulls the water out. Okay? And then for the top part I'm just going to flip it over. I'm going to do it again. Okay, and then I'm going to squeeze out the sponge again. And now I'm going to go a third time the direction I went the first time. And flip it over on this end. And once I go over it about 3 times, you shouldn't get much water out of there. No, not really. Okay, and we should be good with that process. Now I'm going to take the screen from the screen door. I'm going to pull that off of the paper. You should have a fairly flat piece of paper on your paper mill screen. Okay. All right. Now at this point, I'm going to move this tray over. All right. I'm going to take a piece of couch paper. I'm going to lay it on top of my blue piece of paper, and I'm going to flip this over. And now the paper mill screen is on top. I'm going to lay it down on the table, and I'm going to take that sponge again, and I'm going to sponge more of the water out from the bottom side, from the bottom side of the paper mill screen. And I'm going to do this a couple times. Most of the water should be out. So. Alright, at this point you should be done with the sponge, so you can set that aside. Now I'm going to take the screen from the paper mill and I'm going to pull that off. If the paper tends to come with it, you just want to kind of peel it off, alright? But it shouldn't, it should come off onto the couch paper. Alright, I'm going to take this and set this aside. This you'll have to rinse off also. I'm going to take my second piece of couch paper, lay it on top. So now you have 2 pieces of couch paper and your paper in the middle. And you take that hard flat board and we're going to press that just like we did with the sponge. Again, every time we're pressing this with a different with the sponge or this board, we're pressing more water out of it. And I'm going to go over this a few times. Okay, now the Cooch paper can, once you peel this off of it, can be set off to the side to dry. Again, we don't get rid of this. Alright, we keep it. We just set it off to the side to dry. Alright, now I'm going to take my paper, and it should peel right off the Cooch paper, and I'm going to lay it over onto the ironing board. Okay. Now I want to plug my iron in and get it hot, and then I'm going to start ironing. The iron plugged in and hot enough now. The first step I want to do is, if you make the paper too thick, it tends to want to peel up the particles because you don't get them pressed good enough and end up on the iron. So again, we want to keep the paper fairly thin, and it should iron pretty easy. Now, different construction paper I found, iron's different than others, so hopefully this blue iron's okay, but if you're having troubles, the best way is to set the iron on it for a minute and then pick it straight up, move it to the next spot, pick it straight up until it starts to dry a little bit, and then you can iron like you normally would with iron. Okay, so we're going to give this a shot, so I'm going to take this and put it on top of here. And you'll know if it's going to move or not because it tends to want to just nice and easy. Alright, and you'll know when it's ironed good because the water starts to evaporate out of the paper and you get lighter spots. Okay, eventually you want to just iron it until it's, you know, nice and light. So once I iron one side, I'm going to turn it over and do the other side. And I'm going to turn this paper over a couple different times, ironing it until most of the water is evaporated out. You can see some of the water starting to evaporate out. Okay, now as you're ironing, the paper tends to want to warp. To counteract that, you flip it over and you can hold on one edge, kind of hold it up as you iron, and it'll bend it. It should bend it back the opposite direction for you. Okay. And once it turns out a lighter color, both sides, your paper's pretty much all ironed out. Now, don't leave the iron on. Unplug the iron. Unless, you know, more people are making paper, then you can leave it plugged in and continue making paper until you're done. But once all done making paper, make sure that the iron's unplugged, all right, along with the blender. But when you're done, you should have a nice, solid, pretty sturdy piece of paper. Okay. Technically homemade at the same time. We're just recycling paper, but still looks pretty cool. You can see a lot of the white particles in there with the blue, and it's quite a bit lighter and sturdier than the construction paper. So really cool. All right, now that you've completed this piece of paper, you know, complete a nice piece of artwork on it, so that everybody can enjoy and put it on display. Okay, till next time, next video, make sure you stay tuned. Thank you.